Why aren't these guys talking to their partners? Why aren't they talking to their guy friends? Why are they staying so quiet and holding up that they end up talking to their massage therapist when surely someone they love is right there to support them?
Because you look at the way that society is built and the way we are, let's call it, conditioned by the media and our upbringing, our generational upbringing. Most, for my age group, our parents lived in a very patriarchal society where, the man works, the woman works, is at home. That's kind of the tradition of the old patriarchy, right? And the conditioning in that is that, the guy is at work and they don't share what's going on for them because they need to show strength and power and so on. And the media obviously now portrays that strongly, and so we all believe that that's what it should be. And so we're feeding, the media is feeding us this information.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. And today we're going to take a peek inside the secret lives of men. If you've ever wished that you could look inside your guy's head and see what he's thinking, then you might be surprised at what we're about to learn. So as women, we look at guys and we think, they don't have anything to worry about. They don't have to spend an hour on hair and makeup before they go out. They don't have to fight to get taken seriously or crash up against a glass ceiling. It's all fun and games for them, right? But of course, that's not true, right? Men do worry just as much as we do. Men struggle just as much as we do. But they don't always feel like they can talk about it. And that's where our guest for today, Paul Averill, comes in. Paul is a coach for performance, self-worth, and fulfillment. He's a podcaster, an international property investor, and remedial therapist whose wellness podcast, The ManBits, has global reach. It's reached the top 10 in iTunes in 5 countries and even made it in Virgin Australia's in-flight entertainment. Welcome, Paul.
Hello, Amy. I'm so happy to be here. It's such an honor. Thanks for having me.
So you've recently reached a major milestone. You have reached 100 episodes of the ManBits. How does that feel?
It's something that I'm very proud of, and it's been such fun to interview influencers, best-selling authors, academics, doctors, PTs, and just people who've gone through a journey of adversity and shared their journey, and they're helping other people now with that. And so to see, if I look back at the beginning and see, I would never have imagined where it would have gone, and now it's gone where it has gone. And it's been such fun. And now we've got to episode 100. We're having a short break, a sabbatical, because I've just had a daughter fairly recently, and it's time to spend a bit of time with the family. So we're having a short little break and looking maybe rebranding. But yeah, it's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing. And my wife is 50% of it, even though she's not always on the show. She is part of the journey as well.
So what led you to create your podcast? Your podcast, just to be clear, it's for men, and it's where men can have conversations about the things that matter. Why did you think that there needed to be a podcast like that?
The work I do as a remedial therapist. So remedial therapy is massage therapy, but it's somewhere between relaxation and physio. So we do the work of a physio, but we can also give a really good relaxation massage. But I do a lot of clinical-based work, so dry needling and trigger point work and so on. And so I have men and women on the table, not at the same time, usually separate. And we'll work, so it's pain. I'm working with pain. But what I noticed is at the beginning, most of my clients were female, and a few guys would come through. Now it's actually probably 80% of my clients are men. But what I noticed is many guys, not all, but many guys would just be on the table, and it would be like working on a piece of brick. It would be like working on a piece of concrete. So physically very tense. But I could sense that there was more to it. There's more beneath that tense physical stature, let's say. especially amongst guys who work in trade or farming or anything like that. So there weren't, what I noticed is that there's a lot more below the surface, and some guys would open up in the room and actually start sharing things that are going on for them. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. Some guys actually can share what's happening. They just need the right outlet. They just need the right kind of person to share with. And I love podcasting, and I love training and knowledge. Some of my other background is working in business training, business coaching, and leadership. So I have that part of my experience, and then I have the physical health part. Bringing them together, I thought I need to provide some kind of outlet for guys, some kind of education. And the podcast became an idea when I was on holiday in Canada with Pascal, and we're like, what can we do? We need to do something. And eventually the name, the ManBits, got dropped into the conversation. And I went, that's it. It has to be called the ManBits. So actually our listenership is now about 50% men, 50% women. And we're even looking at a rebrand now to sort of reach a wider market of, say, Japan and South Korea. But yeah, so it just came from a spark of an idea that I could see there was a need. And I think I like to be the conduit for good information.
So as a woman, I'm thinking, why aren't these guys talking to their partners? Why aren't they talking to their guy friends? Why are they staying so quiet and holding up that they end up talking to their massage therapist when surely someone they love is right there to support them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that could open a can of worms, Amy. Because you look at the way that society's built and the way we are, let's call it, conditioned by the media and our upbringing, our generational upbringing. Most, for my age group, our parents lived in a very patriarchal society where, you know, the man works, the woman is at home. That's kind of the tradition of the old patriarchy, right? And the conditioning in that is that, you know, the guy is at work and they don't share what's going on for them because they need to show strength and power and so on. And the media obviously now portrays that strongly. And so we all believe that that's what it should be. And so we're feeding, the media is feeding us this information. I mean, I think if we got started on, you know, going on about the media, it would be a long conversation. But if you watch movies, you see how much they stereotype men and women. Men to be egotistical, misogynistic, for example, and women to be sexual beings and, you know, emotional, for example. That's just two examples, but you can see it everywhere, and you see it in the newspapers. So I think part of it is it's actually conditional for us not to share. And we don't want to be seen as being weak and so on. And we talk about vulnerability a lot on the show. And when you see what vulnerability is, people think vulnerability is a weakness. It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable and actually go, hey, I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling good about myself. So vulnerability is a strength. It's courage. It's all sort of flipped on its head, really.
Do you think that women judge men who open up about their problems? Because one of the things that we see is that there's this idea of the sensitive guy who is friends with all the girls and they can come to him with their problems, he can share his problems, but it never turns into anything more. He's stuck in the friend zone. Whereas on the other hand, you've got the alpha male who is strong and silent and says nothing, and the women want to sleep with him, but they don't want to sleep with a guy who they have this intimate, caring conversation with.
Okay, think of that as I mean, we're born into hierarchy, millions of years of hierarchy, right? So, and I'm not just saying for men here, but the hierarchy is, you know, if you, let's say, you put a guy at the top of a hierarchy, that person might protect us, our survival. So you know, there's a risk of death. If we're looking back, I mean, back into evolution, you called it the alpha male. Let's call it the alpha male for that reason. You put the alpha male at the top. That's the person you will go to because that's the person that will help you survive. And that's the person that, from an evolutionary perspective, has the best genetic material for procreation and survival. I mean, that's instinct. It's not a superficial thing. It's not something we're aware of, but it's very deep. So that's, I mean, that's taking it from there. But then again, you've got the media portrayal of it. So I think, to answer your question there, why are they going for those guys? Are those guys the ones that are going to provide love, support, and romance and intimacy in a relationship once it becomes a permanent relationship? Or are we talking about quick, flirty one-nighters and party time? Because, I mean, there's two different things there. So different people go for different things. I think there's a bit of a generalization when it comes to women like powerful men, because a lot of people I know and a lot of people I've spoken to, women like men who are listeners and do want to have a conversation, and they want to share what's going on for them. So, and I don't think there's any trouble with that. But perhaps there's a perception that that's a little bit weak or feminine. But there's a feminine aspect to men. Men are maternal, just like women, and men are emotional. Maybe not as maternal, because obviously women they're the ones who give birth to the child. They have that intrinsic connection. But men are maternal and they're emotional. Women are maternal and emotional. Women are also driven, ambitious, and powerful. So it's a big misconception that just the big alpha male is the kind of guy that is going to help support and love in a family relationship. Really, that's what most people want.
I love that. Thank you for saying that so much. So I want to get in deeper. So the men that you were meeting that had these rock hard muscles and just couldn't relax, were very tense, there were things going on for them that they weren't talking about. What kinds of things were going on for them? What worries keep men up at night?
Men are solution-based thinkers, right? We come from that place. If you've ever had an argument with a man, as a partner, let's say it's a female and male partnership, they want to fix the problem. Or if ever, perhaps from a female's perspective, you're having a bad day and you want to share that bad day, and you try and share it with your man or a man, they will go straight to the solution. Why don't you just do this? This will fix it all. Everybody will be happy. So we're solution-based thinkers, and I think that when it comes to that, our minds go straight to, how do I fix this? And we are providers. Again, back to the evolution, that's instinct in us. We feel that that's our role in life. But there's again a misconception, I think, for men, that providing means going out to work 60 hours a week, and that's it. Providing is putting a roof over their head. That's not what providing is. I mean, that's one thing of providing, one aspect. But there's also providing love. There's providing a shoulder. There's providing support and for your family, and being present for your children. And it's so important to have a father figure for children. And so I think what keeps men up at night is when there's a threat of, say, because the thought is we provide for financial stability. If there's risk of redundancy, if there's change in the economy, if there's things like money worries going on in the house, I'd say that's one of the main things men worry about. The other thing is when the communication's fallen apart in a relationship. Men do worry about that, and they think about that a lot. But there's a gap of how they communicate it.
So I want to know more about that. So men worry about their relationship with their partners. That's kind of a good thing to know, I suppose.
Yeah, they want to be loved, right? I mean, everybody wants love. That's one of the fundamental needs of a human being. We want love and social connection. In relationships, this is again probably a can of worms, Amy. I don't know how long we've got, but it's stress in relationships happens on both sides, and so what a female might perceive as stress is probably different to what a guy perceives as it. But the real gap, and this is something I've realized in my relationship with my wife Pascal, I'm confident to say we have a very comfortable relationship with each other. We can be, what I say is, like, brutally honest with each other, absolute brutal honesty, because we have a foundation trust, and that's really important. But what I think happens when things go wrong generally is, on one side, there's something that's bothering them. Maybe someone's had a bad day at work, or there's a money worry, and that's for men or women, whatever it might be. And that's not communicated to the other person clearly enough. It's not communicated in a way that's saying, we're on the same mission here. We want the same thing. I'm trying to help, I want to try and find a solution to this problem. So there becomes this gap of communication. So let's say, I'll give you an example. So maybe I get home from work and I've had a massive day and I've had 8 clients and I'm stressed and I'm pretty tired. And I get home and Pascal will say to me, maybe Pascal had a bad day too. And she'll just share her bad day with me. And she'll hand me Audrey, my beautiful daughter, say, there you go. And that's great, that's all power to her, because she's had a bad day with the baby and she needed a break. And I need to help her and support her there. But what I think subconsciously is, man, I've had such a bad day. You haven't given me any appreciation for the fact I've just had a really hard day and I'm really tired. Can I just have 10 minutes? Maybe I'll say that, right? Look, I'm not perfect, but I usually wouldn't say that, but in a relationship, but everyone makes mistakes. So maybe I'm a bit insensitive occasionally. What happens there is, if there's no communication, I just kind of blow up at her and say, I've had a bad day. And then she doesn't let me know that bothered her, or she doesn't say to me, that hurt, what you said there. Then this gap gets wider. This gap of resentment gets wider because we bury these things that bother us and we don't share them honestly. Like, we don't share the brutal honesty. The issue is that you need to be aware of, when you're sharing something with brutal honesty, is don't be offended if someone says something to you. And when you're offended, you go, what are you saying? You're saying that I'm not looking after my daughter properly or whatever, right? Then if you drop the blame and drop being offended in a relationship and just hear what someone's saying, truly what they're saying. I wasn't saying, oh, give me a break. I was saying, I need 10 minutes just to gather my thoughts, gather my energy, so I can give you 100% of me. That's all it was. But I can articulate that now, but most people can't articulate that. And so I think, just to sort of summarize on that, is that when someone's having a hard time in a relationship and they share it emotionally, the other person isn't listening clearly enough to say, okay, what does this person really need from me right now? And they don't give that. And so I think the important thing is to listen to your partner. If they're being brutally honest about how they feel about something, have the empathy to think, okay, well, where's that coming from? It's not just because they don't like me. In most cases, it's because they want something that I want, and that's usually a good connection and love, or something for the family. Does that make sense?
That's so true, because I think as women, we do have a tendency to take so many things personally. We feel rejection so acutely, and sometimes just not looking at us in the eye or having a cold tone of voice can hurt. And we often maybe don't think about what our guys are going through. So you've got a podcast that helps men talk through the issues they're going through, helps women understand the issues men are going through. Talk to us a little bit about, you've actually got a whole website, you've got video courses. What do you offer? What do you offer people?
Well, on the website is mostly the podcast. I have another coaching business called Mind Nation, mindnationjp.com, mindnationjp.com. That's where we're building courses that cover things like mindset, confidence, motivation, relationships, emotion, habits, goal setting, time management, the whole lot. Because we think there's a real foundation to living a fulfilled life. And so we're creating education for that. So that's something I'm working on, and we've got some free resources there. If you go to my website, that's my podcast, and you can just download any episode you want. There's lots of blogs on there. I just want people to get educated as to what the truth is of life, and not what we see in the media. I think if there's anything that we can be confused by, it's the media, because it's everywhere we look, and it's on our phone. And the first thing we do is pick up our phone in the morning and we see the media, and it's firing us a lot of BS in many cases. So I'm trying to create a really honest platform.
Fantastic. And for those of you watching, if you want to go check it out and maybe share it with a man in your life, we've got a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/Paul. That's yourbrilliance.org/PAUL. We're coming to an end, Paul. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I wanted to know if there was any last message you would like to leave our viewers with.
Okay. Well, I've just become a new parent, and so suddenly I'm an expert in parenting. And what I've realized certainly is that as a parent, the ultimate role for our children is to be the role model. And but we sometimes aren't always aware of what we're saying, how we're acting. Children watch everything we do. And so even if you don't have children, take responsible action in your life. So be responsible for everything you do, be honest, and be the good role model for the children.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you out there for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, let your brilliance shine.